Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. It's your boy LS3. Welcome to Medicine Ball. Hold up, let that rock for a second. Yes, sir. Medicine Ball with your boy LS3 to be exact. And if you ain't in shape, then at least your brain should be. We focusing on that mental health and giving your brain a six pack. Let's get it. Yes, you could have been anywhere in the world today, but you chose to be with me. I thank you, and I do not take that lightly. Medicine Ball, where we're talking about mental health. What is it? Why is it important? Depression, anxiety, or maybe you just having a rough day. That's what we're here to talk about, man. So welcome to the family. Yes, sir. Exercise that brain. Why we want to exercise it? It makes you a better person. It gives you more tools and increases your ability to be able to deal with the things that happen on a daily basis in your life. So, of course, we want to talk about how to deal with things, man, how to deal with certain situations, how to be aware of your mentality and your mental state and where it's at. We also want to talk about your emotions and answer any questions that you may have to do with mental health. So, with all of that said, today's episode, Cool AC. We're going to get right into it. Let's go. So, anxiety, man. Cool AC. Cool anxiety control. The first thing I want to do is talk about what anxiety is, man. And anxiety is, in layman's term, your body's response to a stressful situation. It can be characterized by feeling nervousness, fear, tension, racing thoughts, man. Something that your body is basically giving you a signal and letting you know that, something may not be correct. Now, this can become tricky because anxiety can also be related to the fight or flight kind of way of reacting, man, which is basically if your body faces harmful or worrying triggers, feelings of anxiety kick in, but they're necessary for survival. So, for instance, say you're walking a trail, man, and danger sets in, and the alarms in the body goes off because you see a bear, right? The alarms that go off in your body are noticeable, and it raises your heartbeat. It could cause sweating, and it increases your sensitivity to your surroundings, and it also causes a rush of adrenaline. Now, for many people, this is something that is crucial to us living day to day. It's going to help you run away from that bear or any imminent danger. But nowadays, anxiety revolves a lot around everyday situations, work, relationships, home, finances, worrying. Anxiety revolves around those things, so it can be often tricky to tell that, hey, this is something that's going on and I need to pay attention to it, and maybe I should do something different or start a different action. Now, that nervous feeling that you get before an important life event or during a difficult situation is that's kind of the original fight or flight reaction. And, again, that can be essential to survival. But when it starts coming into talking about your daily life and just making decisions and whatnot, if you're not aware of it, if you don't know how to control it, it can actually be a hindrance and it can be something that's bothersome to most people. When we're talking about mental health, I want to stay on the topic of GAD, which is generalized anxiety disorder. Now, what this is actually the most common anxiety disorder, and it's a chronic disorder involving excessive, long lasting anxiety and worries about non specific life events, objects, and situations. One of the biggest problems with this particular anxiety disorder, and it's really what it is. The name of it says it's a general anxiety disorder. The thing is, most people aren't able to identify the cause of their anxiety, which is something we're going to talk about later on in this podcast. But that's the main thing that could kind of throw people off. It's one thing to get these feelings of being having anxiety or being anxious. It's another thing to know what's actually causing them. And it can also be confusing because when you start feeling like that and it's something you relate to, maybe, something you may feel when you're in danger or in a life threatening situation, it could totally, totally throw you off. Right. Now, for me, as somebody who's been diagnosed as bipolar disorder 1, anxiety is one of the things that I deal with, even as today. And I know with me, when I get anxiety, I could feel, kind of like a rush of energy. I guess that adrenaline that they're talking about. Some situations, it can make me react in an upset way. Like it used to make me very, very angry when I would get these anxiety attacks. It would make me feel angry, and that anger could either be linked to one or two more emotions. It could come from a feeling of being hopeless or a feeling of not being understood, and it morphs into anger. And what happens is it's like a downhill snowball. All right, and I don't know if most people, well, some of the people I talk to, they do feel this way, but it's so many different emotions. It may be anger, then misunderstanding, then you may get sad, then you start thinking. I know for me, I used to always think, okay, what can I do now? Is this something I could have avoided? And it's kind of those racing thoughts where I'm kind of going everywhere, kind of like of a panic. And that's another thing. Panic is something that's tied into decide any type of anxiety disorders because that's where it's that intense like terror. That's the only way that I can explain it. It's like you're terrified, man. Like um, just it could go from breathing to dizziness to anger to terror, and it's like a terrified feeling because you don't know what you're gonna do. And I want people to be able to identify these things and realize that, hey, this is anxiety. Now, the thing that you do have to understand about anxiety, or the thing in my situation, and I think most people need to understand, is very rarely does anxiety or anxiety attacks come on for no reason at all, for absolutely no reason. There's always a majority of the time something that triggers that. Something that's going on in your life may trigger it, or you might be thinking about a relationship that triggers it or whatnot. And it's important to realize that these are the same type of warning signs because, hey, something's not right with your mental. And this is where we want to go to awareness. And that's what we're going to talk about more in the next seg, how I control anxiety, and in the seg after that, what you can do to control it. So it's important to understand anxiety is that nervous feeling you get. It might be fear or tension. You gotta be aware and recognize it as anxiety. Overwhelming. I hear a lot of people saying racing thoughts, man. So the key thing with the anxiety is to understand that, hey, it can suck. It does suck. It can be overwhelming if you don't know how to control it. If you don't understand it, it can be miserable for most people. But it's also something that can be good for you. And hear me out. If you're in a situation where maybe you don't like your current job, or maybe you're living bill to bill, or maybe you're not in a stable environment or a stable relationship, and you keep getting overwhelmed and you keep getting anxiety, and for a lot of people, I see it play out as anger. You have to understand that in a way, your body is doing what it is supposed to do. It is alerting you and making you uncomfortable so that you can address whatever's making you feel like that and move forward or do something about it. Change. It needs some type of action. So it's important that people understand that as well. It sucks, man. It can be something very overwhelming. That's the best way I can explain it. But it's also a trigger, and if you learn to be aware of your anxiety, like not necessarily your anxiety, but what happened prior to you feeling like that situation, what's going on in your life that's making that your subconscious will tell you a lot as well. And we'll speak to that. Your subconscious is basically that voice or your part of your body that does things without you having to tell it to do, such as breathe, such as create new cells and things like that. It will tell you if you're in a situation where you need to change some things up. And a lot of people get these anxiety attacks and these panic attacks because they haven't been addressing the thing that's causing it head on. So that's another thing. The shock factor is always something that catches people off guard. And I want to make sure that I'm let people know that even though anxiety can be a very miserable thing to deal with and a horrible thing to deal with, and it can be overwhelming, it's also something that you need to pay attention to. It's not just there to make you miserable. Something, whether you're dealing with a mental disorder or not, or mental illness or not, something is going on that you need to pay attention to, whether it be right there in that situation or something that you've been put into the back of your head that is, maybe keeping you up at night. So so that's kind of what anxiety is, something that can be very panicky, something, but the main thing I want to point out is it's something that's going on that demands action. All right. So, what I'm going to talk about next, seg, is how I control anxiety, and I'm going to follow that up with what you can do to control anxiety. Medicine Ball with your boy LS3. You already know how I do. Check out this beat, and we'll be right back. Let's go. Pass the information, send the knowledge. Pass the information, send. Pass the information, send the knowledge. Pass the information, send. Pass the information, send the knowledge. Pass the information, send. Pass the information, send the knowledge. Welcome back, man. Medicine Ball with your boy LS3. If you ain't in shape, at least your brain should be cool AC. We talking about anxiety control, man. Be cool. Cool like the AC. Anxiety control, man. We're gonna get right back into it, man. So, as somebody dealing with bipolar disorder, one, that beat was nice, by the way. Hey, hey. So again, as somebody dealing with bipolar disorder, one, mental health exercise is very, very, very important. And I use myself as an example because I happen to know with my diagnosis, my anxiety is considered a little bit more extreme and a little bit more severe than a quote unquote average normal person. As I talked about in the first say, sometimes I know my main thing with my anxiety is, like I said, it was like it's the fight or flight in a way, and more often than not, I chose to fight, and that involved a lot of anger. And when you're dealing with an emotion as strong as anger, man, especially with anxiety, nothing good can come from it. It clouds your judgment. You're gonna do something and say something that you know in retrospect you're gonna feel bad about. You're gonna wonder how you could have handled it a different way. So my first thing that I had to do in order to kind of be able to deal with it, and it's not perfect by any means. I still get anxiety attacks from time to time. Things do bother me, and I do get upset and bothered at things just like a normal person would. So it's not something that is a cure all, but the main thing to help me control it is self-awareness and situational awareness. The self-awareness part for me is very important because I had to do something that would be stronger than the emotion that I'm feeling at the time that I'm feeling anxiety to allow me to be able to think and think logically, not from an emotional standpoint. So I challenge myself. Whenever I had those situations where it's easier to get upset or fall into the anxiety 110%, I was able to program myself to kick into overdrive like, hey, yo, look, listen, this is one of the situations where you can practice controlling your anxiety because practice makes perfect. And so I knew that what I started doing was I took those situations and I cherished them more because it was an opportunity to practice handling myself in a situation where the anxiety was stronger, the anxiety was taking over. And I knew those were few and far between. Like it doesn't happen all day every day. So when I get a chance to do it, I had to take advantage of. So it was a self-awareness thing. And the self-awareness, once I was aware that hey, this is an opportunity, bam, situational awareness. What's going on right now? I'm starting to feel these feelings of anxiety. What's going on right now that's causing it? How can I handle it? And can I turn it around? And it's a medicine ball thing. You got to work out. You got to work out your mental health. You got to work out your brain, man, to program yourself to do that. And that's the second part, exercise. Currently being aware, and I preach it time after time on each podcast, of your mental situation, your emotional state. You have to be aware of it And when you get those opportunities to exercise, you have to take advantage of those opportunities in order to better yourself as a person, man. And also, practice makes perfect, man. Like, it's like your golf swing. I play golf. The more times you get out there and swing, the more your form will get right. So the more times you have these opportunities to deal with situations when the anxiety may be approaching, I was like, hey, man, let me use these as chances to exercise. That goes into my third thing, which was accepting what's at hand and addressing it. So instead of thinking about what I could have done different, which I do, the first thing I do is realize, hey, this happened. I handled it this way. This is the way that it played out. I have to accept it because it's played out at this point in this way, and then addressing it. So don't be hard on yourself. And again, I'm talking about what I would say to myself. Don't be hard on yourself. It happened. You know, this is how you addressed it. Maybe you could address it a different way. Accept it. This was your reaction. Maybe you didn't get it right this time. It is what it is, man. You botched it. Maybe you got it right. And what I find is, and I have to imagine it's like this with most people, is too often I get caught in being upset or being hard on myself because I didn't handle it in a way that I was proud about later on. I didn't handle it in a way where I could be like, man, yo, you really stood up. You handled that situation. You handled that anxiety situation. Bam, you're good. You got to accept it, man. Don't be wallowing in a pit, being hard on yourself because that's just going to increase the anxiety even more. You want to cut it as soon as you possibly can. You want to stop the bleeding. Blaming yourself and being hard on yourself and, especially with me, it's not the move. It's only going to make it worse. And the fourth thing is you got to find some type of outlet. This goes back to me. Some people take medicine. I don't take my medicine anymore, but I'm real big on meditation. I'm real big on mental awareness, a mental evaluation. I'm real big on emotional awareness, emotional evaluation. I tell people meditate, but you don't even have to take it that far, man. Take a few deep breaths, anything. The point is, slow yourself down so you can analyze it from not being in that emotional state. For me, meditation works. Sometimes doing push ups works. Sometimes sitting quietly works. And, I find that those things help me. So now, because I'm more aware of the things involved with my anxiety, and that's a big part of it too, man. You have to have self awareness and know yourself. Once you know yourself, you can start catching the things that are going to give you an anxiety attack ahead of time. And I pride myself on that. I can immediately, and it's not always, but more often than not, I can catch myself before I get upset or before I get angry and be like, yo, don't do it to yourself. This is what's really going on. And then I start talking myself down, man. So that's kind of what I do. And again, I use myself as an example because I know through my diagnosis that my anxiety would be something that's um, a little bit stronger or a little bit more severe than most people. I was prescribed Xanax, which is a drug that a lot of people abuse, but me personally, it would knock me out, man. Like I was getting 2 milligrams of Xanax and like it wasn't calming me down, it was just knocking me out, it was just making me go to sleep. So I decided, hey, I didn't want to go that route. I got to do something else. Meditation, physical activity, being aware of the situation as well as aware of myself. These are things that help me out, man. So I know you guys are like, well, LS3, that works for you. What about me? Me, I don't react that way. So that's what we're going to talk about in the next segment as we wrap it up, man. In the final seg, we're going to talk about what you can do to control your anxiety. And it starts off by knowing that you have the anxiety, all right? So check out this beat. I appreciate y'all rocking with me. Medicine Ball with your boy LS3. If you're in a shape, then your brain should be. Check this beat. We'll be right back. Welcome back, man. Medicine Ball with your boy LS3. I'd like to thank y'all for spending this time with me, man. We talking about Cool AC, man. Cool AC. AC is for anxiety control, man. So, what can you do to help control your anxiety? LS3, we know what you do. What can we do? So, the first thing is to realize that you do have an issue with your anxiety, whether it be your anxiety is too high, whether something is increasing it, whether something is causing you to be anxious or feel nervous, or those feelings we were talking about earlier. The first thing is to realize it and admit it, man. Once you're at that point, you're already a step in, my friend. The second thing is to understand it. And I think this is where I know this is what threw me off, but I think this is where a lot of people go wrong. You have to realize it is this whole thing of having anxiety or being anxious is derived from that whole fight or flight system that kicks in whenever something is wrong, or it might be a danger or an issue. Your body is letting you know. So if you are having this happen, you got to understand it. Like, something's not right. Whether it's something that you're not facing and you're running from, you need to do a serious assessment and realize, hey, if you're tired of dealing with the father of your kids or something like that, man, and that's causing your anxiety to go up, you need to realize it. Like, hey, it's a reason that that's happening. If you're in a situation where you feel overwhelmed and you're frustrated because you're in a situation you don't want to be in, your body is doing what it is supposed to do, and it's making you uncomfortable, because the idea and the way that the body is, hey, if I make this person uncomfortable, maybe they'll do something about it. And that's going to be one of the steps we're going to talk about here in a minute. But you have to understand how it works, how the anxiety works. It is something that a majority of the time, now I'm not saying that there are cases where anxiety is not just triggered for nothing, but a majority of the time something has triggered it, whether you know it or not. And that's the third thing, awareness. You got to go into an awareness mode, man. First, it got to be self awareness, like, hey, I'm getting anxious. I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm thinking about all this. And then be like, situational awareness. What happened? What happened? What just happened prior to me feeling like this? If you're okay a second ago and now all of a sudden you're anxious and you're having issues and you're feeling nervous and all of that, you need to be aware of what's going on, man. You got to be aware of yourself mentally, emotionally, and just situational awareness. What are your triggers? Something triggered that. Something you thought about triggered that. What were you thinking about? Did somebody say something that made you upset? What was just said? That is an awareness thing. Now, notice I said awareness first and then the next thing, which is action. All right. Be aware of what's going on first before you just act on it. And that's what I was preaching in earlier podcasts when I was saying, hey, let's do these awareness activity where something happens and you're aware of it, but you don't necessarily react. Once you're aware, then it's time for action. If you can't sleep at night because you're worried about a bill or you're worried about, you know, you got to kind of think about ways to start addressing these things, because not doing anything isn't going to help. A lot of times when we have anxiety, it's things that we need to face head on, but we are reluctant to face them. And it's because it's most likely something unfavorable, something that's easier to avoid rather than taking and facing straight on. Action is very, very important because you're essentially ignoring your body's, if you're not able to look at anxiety the proper way, you're essentially ignoring your body and your subconscious and your mind's attempt to try to alert you that something's going on and a change is needed. Now, the fifth and final thing I want to touch on goes back into everything we've been talking about, and is mental exercise. Awareness is something that doesn't come overnight. The ability to be aware of yourself, situations, your environment, and your emotional state is not something that we're told to do on a daily basis. So, whether you're suffering from a mental health illness or something to that nature, you have to exercise your brain. Practice makes perfect. So you need to kind of put it as high up on your priority to be aware of your mental state, and not just in situations of anxiety, but just in situations in life. So, you can start looking at things a different way. I promise you guys, it is a beautiful thing once you're able to start perceiving things differently. Once you're able to analyze situations, kind of slow that down. Once you're able to look at things for the bigger picture and really understand what's going on, it is a beautiful thing. But you have to exercise every chance you get, and this is what I actually gonna charge y'all. Let's go right into what I want you guys to do this week mentally, man. I want you to look at any type of adversity or any type of situation that arrives and evolves that might get your anxiety or your blood pressure going or get you kind of upset or those senses and feelings of nervousness. I want you to see when you see those type of things arise, be aware of it first, but use it as an opportunity to exercise your brain. Use it as an opportunity to kind of do research on yourself. Be like, hey, what triggers my anxiety? If you know something that triggers it, it's easier. Hey, let me maybe stay away from that. Or if it's something you can't avoid, and that's the other thing, we have to start learning dealing and facing things that we cannot avoid. Be aware of it and use these opportunities. Start using them every day in your life as an opportunity to exercise your brain, because that's what we're focused on here at the end of the day, giving your brain a six pack. So that's what our assignment's going to be this week, man. Another awareness kind of training and a mentally exercising of your brain. Next time you feel you may be getting upset or a little perturbed or bothered, take that moment and more than just be aware of it, I implore you to take it a step further and think to yourself, like, hey man, let me use this as an opportunity to exercise my brain, exercise the way that I look at things, the way I'm able to perceive things. What's making me anxious? If it's something that you can't avoid, start realizing, hey, let me mentally prepare myself for it so I don't get bothered. So continue to do these exercises and you will give your brain that six pack. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to wrap up what we're talking about today. Cool AC, cool, be cool. Anxiety control. You got this. You can do whatever you want. Medicine Ball, the page on Facebook is now up and running, so you can just go search Medicine Ball and join it, like it, follow it, or whatnot. I'm available on all platforms again: Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcasts, Spreaker, and a couple of more. Just go search Medicine Ball, man. Hey, I thank you guys for taking the time out today to give a little bit of exercise to your mental health. This is Medicine Ball with your boy LS3. And if you ain't in shape, then your brain should be, man. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all rocking with me. Keep your head up, man. And remember, you can do it. Quit being so hard on yourself. I love y'all. I'm out. Until next time, peace.